I did that for 2.5 years. And then I just quit and went on the road hardcore. Hey, hardcore.
Hardcore, yeah, no pun intended. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Me and Mike have a great guest today. We are so excited. And we're going to have a lot of laughs today because she's a well-known famous comedian known as Tammy Pescatelli, but she'll also be your 3 a.m. friend. How's it going, Tammy? How are you?
Hey, good. I'm good. Thank you. How are you guys doing?
Good. I love that thing you got on your Instagram. I'll be your 3 a.m. friend. I always like it's when I see that, it makes me laugh.
Well, it's really based on a true thing. I used to do this bit in my act and the type of friends that you need in life. You need like a dumb friend because the quality of your life will skyrocket, and you need a 3 a.m. friend. You need somebody. Everybody needs someone in their life that they can call, like Harvey Keitel in The Cleaner, that will show up and at 3 o'clock in the morning with a shovel and bail money, no questions asked. So that's where that comes from. And then, everybody seems to gravitate towards it. I'm very proud to have coined the term 3 a.m. friend.
Yeah, I have a friend, actually, he literally calls me, and that's why I like it so much, because I think a couple of days ago, he called me like at 2:33 a.m. in the morning. And I was like, he's like, hey, he's like, it was a random question too. He was like, Adam, he's like, do they still sell dino nuggets at the store? I'm like, I guess so. I'm like, why are you calling about that? Oh, I'm just wondering. Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm like,
pick up.
Well, that's not a 3 a.m. call. Like a 3 a.m. call literally is like, listen, I think my girlfriend's cheating on me. What am I supposed to do? I'm sitting outside of her house. And I would tell you,
that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. That's what a call is supposed to be. And I'm like, I say, get out of there before someone calls the cops. Don't worry about it. If you think she's cheating, she probably is. Get out of there.
Well, now you guys know the type of friends I have. So not the best.
Yeah. Hey, well, at least that answers that question for all of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But anyways, thank you so much for joining us, Tammy. And I guess the first thing I want to ask you too, because I know you're Italian, you could tell because you look it, you act it. So awesome. Where are you from in Italy?
Well, we're Sicilian, and we're a little village on the bottom of Mount Etna. So it's, my grandparents came here in respectively in 1914 and 1924, that my great grandparents. So that's where we're from. And, I grew up when I was little Italy was all over Cleveland. So like you could go for blocks and blocks and only see Italian people. Now that generation has kind of died off and we've assimilated, which is what the American dream was, right?
Absolutely. And even like, I know that's definitely happening now, especially with like the culture dying out a bit. For example, myself, I don't even partake in a lot of the traditions anymore, which I know I should be, but even like with tomato sauce and, making the peppers or the sausage, we try to do that still. But I know back then it must've been, for you growing up with that stuff, it must've been nice,
Well,
yeah, well, definitely. And I married into it too. I'm sorry, Mike. I married into it too,
you're fine. I was just going to say, as far as cities, I know Chicago's like that too. There was a little Italy here and it just kind of spread apart. And that's kind of one of the reasons we made the page, is because we had all these Italian friends in Little Italy. And then now they like moved to the suburbs, and it was, through social media, you start connecting. And that's kind of how the page came about.
Thank God you made that page. Thank God you made that page, because no, for real, it really makes people like, so there were a lot of Italian people in Cleveland, because the world only pictures Italians, at least in the United States. They never think, by the way, the largest population of Italians outside of Italy is in Montreal, but they never think that. They would never think that they're in Canada, okay? Unless you're really Italian and but as we would say, the Mitigans never think of Italian people outside of New York and New Jersey. But truly, there are huge pockets of Italian anywhere the trains went. So Cleveland, Buffalo, Rochester, Chicago, Kansas City, they've really died past St. Louis and Kansas. Kansas City's like the last place. And then it is then Vegas, they pick up again. But other than that,
No, you nailed it. Like you said, with the trains, anywhere a train went. Yeah. And there's like, cause we just talked to so many people through that page, and Italians are literally everywhere. Like, it's crazy how many like different states and cities and countries we ship to and stuff like that with our customers.
Yeah, Mike, even with like Australia and too, like, Australia's there's
Australia, tons. Yeah.
big, yeah. And I'm from Toronto. I'm not sure if I ever told you that, Tammy, but even in Toronto too, like I'm sure there's big.
Well, sure, because my buddy Frank Spadone, I did a whole tour all through Canada with Frank Spadone, the Doo-Wop Boys. They were from the Doo-Wops. They were from Canada, and along with Rocky Laporte, Dom Irera, and we went all through Canada for Just for Laughs for the Italian show. And
That's
everywhere we
awesome.
went, someone tried to give us food. Yeah, I've been very blessed with.
I love how you brought that up, the food thing. Of course, we're Italian. We love the food, right?
Well, it's funny too. That's like I love the page because I somehow Italian, the culture is still here.
Mhm.
And that's the hard part because now in this new world, we're considered white, quote unquote. And
Yep.
listen,
There's a difference.
I understand
Yeah.
like I get what they're generically saying, but I am so far from some of the, like, we have guilt. Italian guilt is still alive and well. Like, their respect traditions are still alive and well. I just went to a huge Italian wedding with my family this weekend, and sure enough, people are pissed at each other today, even though it was completely beautiful while we were all there and everybody had a great time. But there's a huge fight today, 2 days later, because who sat underneath the air conditioner, who sat over here, who didn't say goodbye to this one, who disrespected that. So
Exactly. It's
crazy
about how
stuff.
we were raised, and there's just differences people don't realize. That's why I love your one joke where you talk about how kind of Italians have thick skin, and we were raised and like they would call you stupid or whatever. I think the joke was about like, I want to be an astronaut. No, you're too stupid to, or what, you know what I mean? Like, you're raised with thick skin, and that's like something that's you appreciate, because in this world, like if you walk around too sensitive, you're not going to go too far, So there's a lot of things our grandparents passed down to us that we want to preserve and keep. And it's like, there's differences between, Americans and Italians with certain things like that,
yeah, I mean, it's I'm sorry, Adam, it's a culture of respect. I literally started out my career and I was single. And so all I talked about was my family. And then I got years, 10 years later, I did Last Comic Standing, and I got all this. It was the first time ever I got all these hate mail, like they were used to then go, all she talks about is being Italian. And some of the alt comics were like, oh, she's like a big meatball. And so I got scared to talk about being Italian, because I was like, okay, it's got to be multidimensional. But everything I was talking about was completely real. And then you cut to, 10 years after that, I'm standing at Madison Square Garden watching my friend Sebastian rise out of the rafters and talking about being Italian. So,
Yeah. So would you say the majority of your audience is Italian then?
No, I don't. I think I have a really multicultural, but I think a lot of my audience is family oriented. I mean, because I think, I play in Israel a lot, and those shows are always sold out because it's a family thing. It's a lot. I mean, I do think that that's where the base came. I think my people supported me, but I worked the road for years before anybody even knew my name. I worked for 10 years before I'd ever been on television. And then my first TV appearance was The Tonight Show. So
that's awesome. Well, actually, I was going to talk to you about that because I know you're obviously very successful at what you do, but before that, you were also doing you were a morning radio show co-host, TV spokeswoman, and a basketball cheerleader. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
You want to maybe touch upon that too, because that's really cool. So many different jobs, but still in the same, respect, of being a personality, right? So how was your experience doing all that?
Well, it's interesting because none of those, even this career, was what I was looking for. In 10th grade, I told my guidance counselor, she said, what do you want to be? When they're all trying to figure out what school you're going to go to. I said, I want to be an actress. I want to be on TV, because I had done all the plays and stuff. And she said, you're from here, this little town outside of Cleveland. She's like, no one from here has ever been on TV. If you want to be on TV, you're going to have to rob a bank. And she laughed at me till I felt like this big, and I walked out. So I got a degree in fashion design. My parents had moved in between college and my internship, where I was supposed to go to New York. I had 3 months off, and I went to this small town. They moved to a place that's actually big. It's called the Quad Cities, and it's Iowa and Illinois, and it's a huge test market. So it's like almost, do you ever hear the saying, if it plays in Peoria? Because this market is just amazing. if you can make those people laugh or like you or whatever, it's a real Midwesty thing. So they know you. So I was just there hanging out, and I'm 21 and I don't know anybody. So they have a comedy club and I loved comedy, just never clicked on it for me. I said, I'll get a job there. I'll be a waitress. I can make a little bit of money, make some friends and see some comedy, and I'll leave in the fall. And a woman came through, and I went home and said to my brothers, you know, I think I'm as funny as she is. And they were like, bet. And I needed money. So I did the open mic that was sponsored by a radio station. They brought me in as a co-host. A few months later, became my show, and I got a co-host. I started working at the TV station. I was a cheerleader for they had a CBA basketball league, which later on I went on to be the choreographer for the league, which helped me get through comedy. And then I became like a house MC. On Friday mornings, I would interview the comics on my radio show and then take them out for breakfast afterwards to talk to them about the road stuff. And I did that for 2.5 years. And then I just quit and went on the road hardcore. Hey, hardcore.
Hardcore, yeah, no place.
And that was it. Then, you know, just, but you have to work your way up from MC to feature to headliner to, you know, special engagement.
Well, you know, I want to touch upon that too, because you mentioned that your guidance counselor really kind of put you down about that, saying like, okay, well, if you want to do that, oh, you're gonna have to rob a bank and everything. And I want to know how that affected you mentally too, because think about it, you're a person that wanted to go for something, you have dreams and aspirations, and someone's telling you can't do it, right? So what's like one piece of advice you would give to someone that's going through that, like who's maybe struggling or maybe being put down by someone else that still has these dreams? What would you tell them?
Well, I think you just have to, I mean, it sounds very cliche, but you have to follow your heart. You can't let someone tell you who you are. It's very clear for me. I have learned, I know who I am. So no matter what names they call you or tell you about yourself, if you don't believe it, you have to believe in your heart that you have something greater or bigger than where you are. But you have to understand, you're looking at a new generation. This is a generation where female comics are the norm. There weren't a lot of female comics. There were about 20 when I started, and of those 20, they were older, or, you know, I'm 24 years old, fresh out of college. I look different than them because a lot of them had a very masculine. So I had to develop a masculine energy, even though I physically didn't look like them. And I would downplay my looks because I wanted to be taken seriously. And I think it was just it was a completely different time. And then at home and with family, they'd be like, this is what you want to do. How come you don't want to get married and you don't want to have kids? And I'm like, I do want all that, but there's something in me. Like, they all wanted to be the famous person's wife. I wanted to make my own money. They wanted to be the famous person's wife because they wanted the money and the respect. I wanted the respect for myself and make my own money. And I didn't want to be somebody's wife. I wanted to be fully complete on my own.
How'd you get that drive then if your family didn't really, you know, preach it in their house? Like, what made you, you know, realize that you wanted to make your own money and kind of do it that way?
Well, you know, I mean, I think I was the athlete's girlfriend for a long time. And I was that, you know, and then when those situations didn't work out, when this one cheated there and that one cheated over there, I was like, wait a second, why am I sitting here waiting on that life? Let me create it myself, and then we'll see where we go from there. And quite honestly, when you grow up in an Italian house, really with the way I grew up, I needed a little bit of attention, right? Like, I got a microphone just so people will hear me. You know what I mean? Like, and I always tell my parents, you're lucky I respected myself, or it could have went a completely different way. I could have been on a pole somewhere instead of behind a microphone.
Absolutely. Yeah, literally.
Yeah,
absolutely. But I love how your stuff's geared towards family. That's what, like, obviously Mike with his page preaches, all about family, community. And can you share a few stories of how it is in your family, especially with your husband and your son? Like, I know a lot of your jokes are geared towards your husband and both your guys' crazy families and stuff. Tell some funny stories if you have any.
Well, it's a weird story for me because literally after I got a little bit of money and had been on a couple of TV shows and got the SAG insurance, the Screen Actors Guild insurance, I went to therapy to kind of deprogram all of that. I'm proud of being Italian, but we grew up in a culture that you can't give more than 2 compliments in a row because you're going to make it the Maloik, you know, you can't, you can't you can't celebrate certain things because they're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Oh my God, you can't. So who's going to die now? Whatever. So I grew up all nervous like that because my mother was sick when I was a kid. So I grew up a lot of the time at my grandparents' house with that old school Italian. I mean, you know, they were right from Italy. So I kind of went to deprogram that. Like, I deserve things and things can be good, and let's just sit in that. Well, then I married my husband. I met my husband shortly thereafter, and his whole family has that whole, then I went, right. I went deeper than my family because then now it's my
Just
mother-in-law.
when I thought I was out, they put me back in.
That's exactly what happened. So then my mother-in-law created, I mean, like, she's the one who told me my son was going to have brain damage because I was flying when I was pregnant, you know, so all those things. But the good part about it is my husband was an amazing actor. He's the guy who was Tony and Tina's wedding in New York for years. He was hysterically funny. Even though we had friends, mutual friends at the Comedy Store, like Sebastian and Brett Ernst and John Caparulo, like we grew up with this whole little, it's funny, all the Italians hung out together, and Dom, they all tried to set us up, but we didn't. Michael Wheels Parisi, but we didn't, it just didn't work at that time. And we never met because he was at home dealing with his father dying, and I was really busy with the TV show I was on. And then we met randomly in this this weird apartment building that I lived, where it was myself, an attorney, and the other 4 apartments were strippers at various stages of their careers. So his best friend was dating one of those girls, and she said, what are you and Luca doing? And I was like, is that Luca Palanca from the Comedy Store? And now everybody's got named their kid Luca. I feel like my TV show had a little bit to do with that.
Well, there's also the Disney movie Luca that just came out too.
Yeah, so. Again, yes, Adam, but you're missing the point. My TV show was 11 years ago. Even Disney was inspired by my TV show. Okay.
Come on, Disney, she's gonna sue you.
It's a cool name. It is a cool
No,
name.
I mean, there was Luca Brasi in the movie forever.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
No,
true.
it's that's the thing. It's just interesting. Like I know Mike, your dad knows, Mike's dad, also named Mike. He also knows you and Luca, and he knows that you guys like.
Yeah, but it's
the
a
way
he
you
talks
guys
to Luca a lot.
Yeah,
they love each other. And look, my husband, you know, I joke about him a lot because it's all true. but he's got the greatest personality. I didn't marry him. I always joke about his education and this or that because it's funny and stuff, and I have to pay bills. But I married him not because of his education, but because of the confidence. You have never seen. He has that true. When you watch, you know, old school John Travolta, that he pretended to have that confidence in Saturday Night Fever. My husband really has that. He walks down the street like, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? He's a lot like Rodney Dangerfield in Caddyshack. Give me 2 of those and 6 of those. And, you know, I mean, that's
I love that.
Real
That's
heart.
awesome. Oh
That
my
is so
gosh.
cool. It's funny. So there's actually one joke, speaking on the topic of your husband. There was one joke I actually saw. It was about like, oh, you know, my husband, he has the dreams of like a 14-year-old school or whatever. And you know, as a wife, I gotta be like, no, you can't do that. It's like, or you make a joke like, you want to do that? No, you're not. You gotta put them back to reality.
Yeah, it was my job to crush that dream. But the truth is that, you know, but don't forget, I mean, I was a comedian for 16 years before I even talked about him on, like, I had a full career before I met him. So I had years of talking about things before he even stepped into the picture. So it was a fun transition for me to have that material, because one of the reasons that people love Italian comics, and it goes back way before, it goes back to my beautiful friend, Pat Cooper and Father Guido, who I've been blessed to work with both of those. Italian people always talked about their lives. I don't really tell jokes. I just tell you true stories of my life, and they're all true. I just maybe make them funnier than the average person, but there's probably someone in every Italian family that is just as funny as me, but they just don't get on stage. You know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
either way they can just, even though they don't do it, they can still relate to you regardless, right? Like you tell these stories.
That's why they're at the shows and they love it. Just saying.
Everybody
Mhm.
relates to it. It's so crazy. It's so crazy because Mike has such a big page, and like you wouldn't think that like all those people share the same thing, but like all us Italians are the same. We're like it's crazy. It's like, oh my God, are you sure your nana's not my nana or something like that? Like that's how it
Yeah.
works.
I put a picture of my Nona up and she was cooking in the basement. And I said, you're Italian if your grandparents had a completely separate basement kitchen. And that went viral because it literally, I didn't get any credit though. That sucked. But,
That's how it goes sometimes.
I know it's so horrible. It's so horrible.
Yeah. But
That's
we have a joke too about something. If you had 3 refrigerators in your house or something like that, you're
Yeah.
Italian, and everyone goes
I have
nuts
3.
for that kind of
I have
stuff
3 in my
too.
house.
It's
Yeah,
all
I got
about the food.
2 in my basement and 1 upstairs. Yeah.
So
Now, I will say, conversely, there are some Italians that are not, that don't have a sense of humor. When I was doing all that Italian stuff, I used to do a joke about like when I got a television show, I called my grandfather. I was like, Pop, I shot a pilot. And he goes, oh my God, don't say that over the phone. I got letters from the Italian Defamation League. And it was very funny. They were very upset saying, you make us look like buffoons, but they spelled buffoon wrong. But they also got upset with Sopranos. So I felt like I was in good company.
yeah.
Oh, I know, but that's I saw that one. That was actually one of the clips I wanted to show you later when you were talking to your dad about that. Like, oh, I shot a pilot. I literally have that saved on my phone because I was gonna show it to talk about it after. That's so funny.
Yeah. I feel like I need to. I've talked about certain things a lot in because I have 2-hour specials. The latest one is I went back to my old high school to tell off my guidance counselor, like all these things I did later. And like, you're stomping on people's dreams. I did it in spite of you. But so like, and I put all of the kids in the school that want to work in the arts alongside of the professionals so they could see. I gave them an IMDb credit so they could graduate with it. We created a scholarship, and I was going to have her announce me, and she died the week before the special. But
Wow.
right. So revenge is not best served cold. You got to get right back there and give it to them. But
I think you've been watching, Tammy. I think you've been watching too much Godfather. I don't know.
Yeah, hey, listen, I'm telling you, if she died, if I went back a year, years ago, she would have been there. But the fact is that in all those specials, I have chunks. I always talk about Amish people. I didn't mean to do it, but I'm fascinated by the culture. So I'm going to put all of those together, I think, and release it. I think I'm going to put all my Italian jokes together and release it. I just think it might be fun to do it that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you mentioned too that you were on that, I thought it was really interesting that you were on the Tonight Show, you said, and then you even said too that, well, actually I watched it, that you were on Jay Leno's Car Garage after. Is it called? No. Jay Leno's.
Yeah. Jay Leno's Garage. Well, I was really lucky. I did the Tonight Show about 4 or 5 times. I can't remember. I did it 4 times stand up and another time like doing a skit for them and like reporting for them.
Yeah.
And then the Jay Leno's Garage thing just again, Jay's Italian, great guy. He's half Italian.
Many people don't know that he's Italian. Yeah.
Yeah, but Leno, I mean, he's from Boston. He's half Italian, half ashamed. But he's half ashamed. So he literally, what happened to me is in 2020, March, before the pandemic, I had, and I don't say this to brag, just to tell you, I had my hour special come out, the one at the high school, the way after school special. I had a Showtime's comedy special, Women of Certain Age. I had a movie that I was finally the lead of, That's Amore, a TV show that I was the host of, this comedy show called Stand Up Nashville's, live from Zanies. I had an arc on Blue Bloods. I had all this stuff going on. I was very excited for the year. And then the pandemic hits and whatever, there's no spark from it. Like, it was supposed to be a game-changing year. I lost 237 jobs in one day. And so mid-April, I get this phone call from a blocked number, and I don't know, I answer it, and it's Jay Leno. And he's like, hey, Tammy, it's Jay. And I just watched your special. And oh my God, it's the best. He goes, bar none, it's one of the top specials I've ever. I mean, I was so humbled. And it was so kind that I thought it was fake. I thought my husband hired a Jay Leno impersonator to just get me. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, well, appreciate it. Yeah. He goes like, what has happened? Has anybody called you from the networks? And I'm like, yeah, they're all calling me, Jay. They're fighting over me, you know. And
that's the payback that your husband did on you, eh? Because all the
yeah.
shows.
So and then I called up Luca. I'm like, what do you, you know? And my little Luca goes, who are you talking to? I go, Daddy had somebody prank me. As I called up Big Luca, and I'm like, hey, who'd you have call me? Because as Jay Leno, he goes, I don't have anybody call you. I'm like, that's weird. And I called a couple other friends. I'm like, who does Jay Leno? And he's like, nobody really. So then the next day, my agent calls me and goes, hey, did Jay Leno call you yesterday? Because he called me to get your number. Oh. I felt so bad. I had to call him back and go, Jay, this is what happened. I thought it was a prank. And he goes, I'm going to put you on my show. He goes, as soon as we start filming. And he did. He kept his word.
That is so cool. How was that experience with you? Like, even just being with Jay Leno, he's one of my favorites ever to do like the Tonight Show. He's like one of my favorites.
He's just an awesome guy. He's a comic, and he comes and talks to you. I mean, I've done a lot of shows where they don't talk to you prior to you walking out. And he's one of the guys who'll come out and sit and talk comedy with you. And, you know, real comics love to talk comedy, period. You know, anytime I ever did anything with a comedian, Dennis Miller talked to me for hours. Whoopi Goldberg talked to me for hours. Jay Leno they all took the time to talk to you before or after your set.
That's awesome. That's really cool too. I wanted to ask you too about the industry, because I know there's a lot of things going on, even with like, I'm sure you heard with Dave Chappelle, all the stuff that's going on with him and everything, and all these comedians that are getting canceled and all that stuff. What are your thoughts on the industry and the direction it's heading? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Do you think it needs to change? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, that's a good question. But the truth is I was one of the first people canceled. I got canceled in 2016 for coming out and saying the truth, because people kept lifting my jokes, especially one person. And I'm being Italian, I'm very vocal. I said, we want you to do well. Just do it with your own material, you know? And I said, this was pre the Me Too. And I said, at least Cosby knocked his victims out first. You know, I'm trying to be funny and laugh it up. I said it and it went from 3 female comedians accused. I was backing people up, by the way. There were 2 other female comics and a guy comic that said something before me. But again, I'm loudest because I'm a loud Sicilian. And it went from 3 female comedians accuse this person to just me, Pescatelli accuses. And then when I said, look, I'm sorry I even got involved, I should have just kept it to the back of the room like everybody else. And the publicist wrote, accuser apologizes. So, you know, whoever has the biggest publicist in show business wins. I lost my agent. I lost my manager. Wow. They threatened to sue me, that comic. And Cosby's people threatened to sue me. And what? I mean, it was horrible, but I was ultimately vindicated because I was telling the truth. Somebody came out with a video showing all the different instances. Listen, it's hard when you tell a joke and you create a joke. And I know this joke because my grandfather, when I tell you that literally the day before I got married, my grandfather came to my house and said, hey, Tam, today is the best day of your life. And I said, no, Pop, I get married tomorrow. And he goes, no, Domani, today is the best day. And I see it in a scene in your movie. I'm pissed off. Okay. That's not your grandfather. That was my grandfather that did that, you know?
Yeah. I feel like it's like that with everything too, even with Instagram and pages, even memes and whatever, any joke you come up with, people take and steal. And it's kind of part of it. Unfortunately, it sucks.
It's not really part of it because comics used to police themselves. It can happen, but it shouldn't happen. And within the industry, it shouldn't happen over and over again. And someone shouldn't have a whole act based on other people's things. And you can literally, yes, there is linear thinking and we can all think of things, but it was told to me by an Academy Award winning writer, because good people, this is where the 3 a.m. friend comes. Good people I didn't even know, A-list actors, high-powered agents, producers came to my aid during the middle of all of that. And when everybody else was running the other way, because that's what Hollywood does, they're full of flakes and they're full of whatever, the happy good time Charlies. But good people come towards you. It's life. It's Italian. When bad things happen, good people will come towards you. And an Academy Award winning writer told me, when you tell a joke, it's like when you go to the library, there are 500 books on dinosaurs. Nothing's new, right? They all say the same thing, but they don't say it in the same word order. If someone lifts your joke and says it in the same word order, it's a complete theft. It's not linear thinking. So, and that's what was happening.
Yeah, I think too, like, you know, in this type of industry, like, whether it's acting, whether it's comedy, whether it's anything in the entertainment industry, you got to be confident, right? You got to be like, stand your ground and stuff. And it goes back to what you were saying too. The right people will gravitate towards you and help you out in need. And if they really believe in you,
I love
sometimes
that.
I think what happens, sometimes I think what happens is too, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. If someone gets canceled and then they keep apologizing, or they keep admitting it that they were wrong, it kind of just shows that like they're not selling out, but they're almost like giving in to what people are saying, when in reality it's like you have to stand your ground. You have to be like, you know, I said it, I said what I had to say, and that's it. And that's what I live my life on stage the same way I live my life off stage. Yeah.
I know I know what my intent is. My intent is never to hurt or to harm. I know how I mean it. And that's also how I judge other people. I judge their hearts first. I have family that say dumb stuff. This weekend, I had a cousin say dumb stuff to me, but do I know his heart? Yeah, I know his heart. Do I feel like I want to punch him in his face? Yeah, but I know his heart. I know he's not a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's kind of how it comes with apologizing to stuff too. Like if someone's heart's there and they care about you, whatever, you could apologize to them. But if someone's just purely out to get you, want to tear you down, this and that, then it's like you have to stand your ground and not apologize because that's what they're looking for. So, and it's kind of crazy because we talked to a lot of Italian comics through the page, and I feel like a lot of them always say that their jokes get stolen, and there's really no protection for that kind of stuff nowadays. Like you can't.
Well, yeah,
you know,
there isn't
people out and kind of say something or.
Well, here's what we used to police ourselves. Comics used to police ourselves. Now, since that time in 2016, with the onset of like Sirius XM being so powerful and things like that, when we register our jokes there, it's automatically a copyright. So, wow, right away we got that.
That's awesome.
So where we never had that before, because look, that's your joke. And then the other thing about that is now I have fans. There are people, I might not have millions of fans because I don't have a machine behind me, but my fans that I do have are solid and they know my joke. They've watched me from day one. And so they will police it. They'll tell people that's Pescatelli's joke. And by the way, I don't talk about groundbreaking things. If you grew up in an Italian family, people always say you were like Sebastian. I'm like, I was working before Sebastian. Sebastian's like me. He's my brother. We have the same families. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm like Dom Irera because he was my idol. Dom is like Pat Cooper. Like that's, that's just how it goes.
It passes down. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's cool. And even
that's great company though, by the way, right?
Of course. Yeah, I know. Of course. They're all great. Honestly, all you guys are great. But this is really cool actually. So you have a son, right? And yes. Obviously, like from the time that when you first started out doing comedy, and then you had a son, you got married and all that stuff. Did you feel like your comedy style changed because you felt like you had to like be careful what you said in case your son watched or anything like that? Or do you feel like it doesn't matter and you kind of just embrace it and everything?
Well, I was never a dirty comic. I never talked about sex stuff. So that was never, that's just not who I mean, I may talk about sex, but in an adult way. Like, I talked about safe word or something like that.
Yeah. I saw that.
Not in a gross body. For me, it's gross body part stuff. Way. Yeah. Like that's for other people. And I'm not judging their ride. It's just, I was always afraid my father was going to show up at a show because I'll never forget like the first time I did a show and I was making fun of Italians and my father came and then he didn't talk to me for 3 days because he's like, why are you making fun of Italian people? Because there used to be a hidden camera show called Candid Camera. And I was like, they never have Italians on there because they'd be like, why are you filming me? Like, what do you mean you got a hidden camera? What are you, the police? You've been watching me? They would never understand the joke. Mm-hmm. So, I do think that my son never signed up for this. So I try not to tell too many jokes about him. There's a couple that I have in my act now about when he's smart and he did this thing. I have this new joke that's really a true story that he did. And I'm proud of him. He stood his ground to a bully. And I talk about that, which is fun. But, he didn't sign up for it. I mean, we have fun, and my writing has changed just because I'm getting older and I'm, but I didn't immediately do that. When I got pregnant and I went to my agent and I said I was pregnant, he was like, oh, I guess your career's over. And I'm like, this was not a ruse to get a man. Like, I'm going to have the baby and we're going to adapt. I just never pictured staying in Hollywood with a child. I didn't want to raise my son. I might not be traditional in my job, but I'm traditional in my family values. And when I moved to a small town in Pennsylvania to raise him, my parents moved here to help. I have other cousins. And so I have a community around him. Even though mommy travels and goes away for work, he's okay. He's taken care of.
And to go on what Adam was saying too, about how your comedy might have changed over the years. I remember there's one joke you're talking about how now when you get on stage, there's so many different generations that you're kind of that are in the stands. There's people who are there with their kids and stuff like that. Do your comedy change as more generations are watching your shows too? Do you kind of always just stick to the same, like always?
Yeah,
how you done it?
No, you're absolutely right. That's the joke. I'm like, there's 7 generations watching the show at the same time. How am I? Because that's one of the beauties of my act. I wrote my act about 15 years ago. I made a conscious decision. I've been doing it 26 years. I made a conscious decision to write my act as if we're all friends and I just haven't seen you in a long time. Okay. So I realized that then those people really do embrace me. And some of those fans become like family with me, like we're family. They show up every time. I've seen them with their kids, and then they start bringing their kids to the show, and the kids bring their spouses, and then they get married. So I have multi generations coming to my show, and I realized like that's a setup for failure for a comic. I'm not a singer. Sinatra could sing to 27 generations. How am I supposed to tell jokes that entertain? So I tried to start including it. That's why, I started talking about millennials, and even if it's in a fun way, and then how dumb my generation was and how our parents didn't care about us. So I'm talking about 2 generations there, and somehow it all encompasses it,
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how like, I just thought about this right now because you just mentioned about the generations and like about how like the millennials and all that stuff. When I like look at my generation, right? I know that obviously each generation is crazy and goofy and great in their own way. But I always think about when I become like a no-no and I look down on like my grandchildren or, my kids, and I go, your generation is so messed up. I wonder how I'm going to react. Because right now I think, okay, I'm good. My generation's good. It's cool. We got cool things. But then how am I going to be looking down on the new ones and stuff? It's just, like,
your generation is good. The one that's in between your generation and my generation are the ones that are messed up in there. That's because
that would be
because
my
their parents. Yeah, because their parents got a divorce, so their parents became their friends instead of their parents. And you're Italian, so it's a different thing. Where Italian people are, like. It's very funny. I mean, that's still a rule in general, no matter what age. Italian people don't sleep out a lot. You know what I mean? The kids don't go to my kid. If there's a sleepover, I got to know who's going to be there. What's going on? Is anybody stopping by? Is the uncle coming? Is it? I don't know. Like that doesn't happen. You can put 27 kids at my house. I don't care. But I don't.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy?
My mom always talks about that. She always says my grandpa never let her have a sleepover once. My grandma would always have to like make an excuse or help her or whatever to be able to like go just by the neighbors to sleep by her like best friends.
Because I will kill somebody. I mean, that's just it. You don't understand. Like there's no, oh, I'm going to be angry and sign a petition. You hurt my kid. I will come to your house. I will bust down I will die trying to protect my child. And that's not even like a joke. That's how it is. Like I literally will hurt you. If that's why I couldn't stay in Hollywood, because you can't pay someone to love your kid. A babysitter, you see the shaken baby things. Oh my God. If I filmed that, you wouldn't even get to couldn't call the police because I'd be there. God forbid that I'd call the police because I murdered the person. Yeah. Like there's no, and I don't even know if I'd call the police. I'd just take them out to Amishville.
Would you ever think that you were going to be like a very overprotective parent? When you were a kid, you ever think you were going to become
Yeah,
that?
I knew I would be because I mean, I didn't have my son till I was 37. So I knew I would be. That's why I didn't have a kid until I knew that I had a partner that would help me do it, because I knew I wouldn't be able to give a kid 100% of me all the time because I'm working. Now that's the beautiful part of work for me now. And I had a kid at a stage of the game that I don't have to be away from him long. I never go away for more than 2 nights in a row. Sometimes if I have to go longer, he can come with me. So it's a very beautiful thing. I have all the jokes aside, I have a husband that's a phenomenal father.
That's good. Yeah. Well, I think it all just comes down to, just, it's like what you just said, adapting to, because I'm sure, like, let's say you didn't have a kid or you weren't married, right? You'd be able to travel extensive periods of time. You can do late nights, you do all these different things. And
I
some
did it
people,
all. I did. Don't forget.
you did it. Yeah.
I did it all. I was in comedy I was 24. I had a baby at 37. I did it all. I danced on tables in Ibiza. I stayed extra days. I went from London to Paris, even though I was supposed to go home with a suitcase. I did everything I was supposed to do. That's why when you see I had friends that got up and they got out of high school and they got married, and they were judging me. They wouldn't even let me come to their weddings after the time because they didn't want me to bring a date. After a while, they were like, "Oh, you're not married." Then I saw them get divorced because they wanted more out of their life. They were neglecting their kids because they needed to run out and feel special. I got it all. I got it all. I got the attention on me all the time. Every night I get on stage, I got a spotlight. I don't care about that. That's why I'm a good mother, because I made a good choice to wait and see the world before I did all that.
You built your foundation too. Like you said, you have fans now that just care about everything you post and everything you do. So now you don't have to do as much as you did in the beginning. It's easier for you probably when you go on tour and stuff, right? I'd imagine.
No, it's harder right now.
Really?
It's way harder because you have to create constantly. Used to be you were off the road and you were off.
Okay.
So there was nothing on the computer. You didn't have to worry about that. You were off and you were off. So now I have to constantly create content. I have to come up with something. I'm doing interviews in the middle of this, when I get done with this, I got to go pick up my kid, make sure I get done to then run him to wrestling. And so it's harder. It used to be when I was home. I was a wife and a mom. And now in the onset of the new thing post COVID, but it's exciting because it also is I'm still home, right?
Yeah. Sure.
I'll have I have a huge show tomorrow online that's for a corporation, because I do a lot of stuff for corporations because I'm clean. So the corporation will hire me to do Zoom shows. I have a huge show tomorrow. So guess what? I don't want to go out to work this week. I'll stay home and I'll do the show online, and that's it. I'll be upstairs for 2 hours and then mommy's home for the rest of the week.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I feel like too, can't you take, like I see, at least on your YouTube, I see you'll take some of your clips, you'll do on stage too and use that for content, and that kind of probably fills in your time too sometimes. So I'd imagine like all that material you have could pay off with online and stuff too, right? Or is it more, do you like being live and stuff like that and kind of
yeah, because it's hard. I don't want to put anything. So a lot of comics put their stuff from stage on. I'm not doing any of that because I'm in the new buildings part of my new hour. Because don't forget, I released that hour right as the pandemic hit, and I released another 20 minutes, boom, right as the pandemic hit. So I have to have a new hour. So I've been trying to put it together and put it slowly, but it's not coming together as fast as it normally would, because I would have been on stage already 1,000 hours, Now so it's a little bit slower. True. I only have about a new 40 minutes instead of the full hour. So I don't put anything out there because I want to put it on my special, because I learned, someone could take it from me.
Yeah, that's true. Smart.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Tammy, anyways, before we end off, I want to ask you one more thing. What are some of the upcoming things you got going on too that you can share with the audience that you didn't already? Anything else you got exciting coming up?
Well, I mean, I have a new show on Mark Cuban's app. It's Fireside, and it's called 3 a.m. Friend, which is really cool. Where awesome. It's kind of like Dr. Drew meets Judge Judy. We talk about things that are happening in life and what we would tell these people if they were our friends. Like, say, for example, the Kim and the Kanye, difference. If you were their 3 a.m. friend, what would you tell them? Like, tell ye chill out, man. Don't you like?
I have a list. I have a list for Kanye. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And then and then we take some calls. It's a really new interactive thing. So I can see the people and we take some calls and they can see me and we answer some questions. And I always bring on a celebrity friend. Last week I had Alonzo Bowden because that was the premiere week. This week I have Diane Neal, who was a phenomenal actress from Law and Order SVU, NCIS, the Dracula movies. She's and a comedian. So we're just gonna have some fun with that. And they re-released a movie I did called Everybody Wants to Be Italian. That's fun. And
Who
I'll
doesn't?
have to watch that one.
yeah, yeah, of course. Everything I've ever done right now seems to be on Prime. So you can watch
Prime,
all my
okay.
specials and
Yeah, we're gonna put all your links down below too, so everybody can they can follow you on Instagram, watch your specials, YouTube. I know you have your YouTube channel as well that you post a lot of your clips and a lot of your stuff.
Come see me live, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm touring a lot.
When are you coming? Yeah, when are you coming to Toronto and Chicago? When are you coming to both those places?
Chicago in May at the Improv out in Schaumburg. So it's a little bit farther out. You got to take the train, but you'll have plenty of places to park if you drive, which is always fun. And then
I like the Improv over there.
Yeah, it's amazing. That I think that's where I met your father. Yeah, the first
probably,
time.
Yeah.
And so love it over there. And we always sell those all out. So get your tickets right away. And then I don't know about Canada. I'm going to tell you the truth. I got to wait a little bit till I know the board. I don't want to get caught up there. You know,
I think it's good now though, but it's always a disaster here. People always make fun of us Canadians, and now I know why. Well,
I don't think it's just that. It's just everything. It's not even about the truckers. I'm talking about, I can't get stuck anywhere. I need to get back to my family. And every time I go to Canada, I have a lot of friends that I sit there and I gain 10 pounds because everybody wants to bring me their cheese and their super sad. And oh my God, it's so good.
I love Canada. I want to go too, but same thing. We have some family out there, but that we wanted to visit. But we're just not sure what the rules and all that. It's kind of tricky. We're just kind of playing it out and waiting and seeing until things get a little more normal. But
even the Just for Laughs has come down here for this year. So I'm really, they're coming to Vegas. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I get to do that.
Well, listen, next time you're down here, we have to meet up. All three of us. Maybe we'll do a cool little collaboration together, video or something. Or maybe we'll just go to a nice restaurant and have some super salads and some cheese.
I'd be happy to do it, guys. I would love it. I thank you very much for having me on the show. It's been really nice. I'm happy to do it.
I'm so happy. We had a great time too. And again, we'll definitely put all your links down below. And thanks so much again.
Yeah,
continued success with everything to the both of you. God bless.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.
Okay.